Every day we are reminded the value of libraries and how they serve citizens without discriminating along the lines of age, educational or social status. But this has not yet sunk in the heads of many of us. These facilities are underused, and if they are used at all, it is for research purposes or studying for exams.
There's a small group of people who have a big library and are very keen about reading. But I'd say the vast majority of the culture, they think reading is important, but they don't practice it themselves.
The Kenyan lifestyle continues to change, and in many households, books have been relegated to dim corners. Something Mary Stevens of British Council says can be attributed to Kenyans not reading for pleasure.
In most cases, it is due to our upbringing. Most of us Kenyans who have been brought up in the villages, we have so much to do in the village. We have to support the family. We have to do the family chores. And out of that, then we are not left with so much time to devote to reading. And the reading is kind of relegated to when we go to school. Now all I need to do is Google. All I need to go is to go in the internet. So the idea of having books around me is no longer a priority in terms of when I'm looking for information. And that could have contributed for people not owning books or not being great readers in terms of reading books.
According to a survey conducted by NEA, people who read for pleasure are likely to participate in volunteer or charity work. Readers are active participants in the world around them, and that engagement is critical to individuals and social beings, something Martin and Muthoni agrees with.
So when you ask people, do you read? They say, of course I read. I'm literate. I went to school, da-da-da. But what we need people to do is not so much just read, but read for leisure and read creative materials, because it's very different from reading a textbook. It starts a whole new dynamic in someone's life when you are reading for pleasure, because not only does it entertain you, but it also educates you, and it also makes you a more knowledgeable and creative person. In as much as it may not be curricular material, it broadens a child's mind. And it helps a child become a problem solver and be able to put two and two together to come up with, a third option that no one had thought about. So that's really what the market, even the job market, needs. It needs thinkers. It needs problem solvers.
In my quest to seek what has constituted to lack of reading among Kenyans, some long-standing and stemming reasons came up.
What has contributed to this is partly it's our education system. Our education system emphasizes so much on memorizing and cramming and having empirical facts that are black and white. And so the right answer is A, B, C, or D. But we know the world doesn't work like that way, especially as we go forward. The world is now more about analysis. It's more about how do you think. It's about creativity. It's about coming up with solutions to things which we have never even thought about. What
then led to the death of the reading culture is a combination of many things. From the 80s, the middle class began to decline. So people, I suppose, had less money to spend on books and reading. But also, the education system was changed. And it was so curricular focused that a lot of kids literally don't have time to read beyond what they're supposed to read for school. And it got to a point where passing an exam was so important, it's so critical to a child's life, that parents would actively discourage children from reading materials that was not school related. So it's a very common story that a lot of parents, if they catch their children reading a novel, they'll tell them, you shouldn't read this, you should pick up a primary math or better English, read something that you'll be tested on.
Then I came across one of the most intriguing yet interesting way of getting people to participate in bringing back the lost treasure. Story Moja has begun an initiative dubbed Start a Library that is aimed at creating libraries in community and public schools by providing the books.
Start a Library is a Story Moja initiative to try and get more books into public schools. It's to do with making access to books, available to anyone. So it's not a prestige thing. It's not a thing to do with wealth or to do with advantage. Every school in this country should have a library. I feel that so passionately. For a long time, libraries have been considered to be like almost a luxury rather than a necessity, which for me is very strange, because it's very hard to have an education system that does not have on the basis of it that people like to read, that people should read.
This they are able to do by incorporating individuals and corporations to buy packages of books.
The problem of having kids not getting access to local reading material is what we're trying to address. So Start a Library aims at getting Kenyans to donate books to public primary schools, because that's where the shortage of reading material and honestly even the attitudes of reading for pleasure are at the lowest. And so for us, we want to see Kenyans solving a Kenyan problem, which is to get Kenyans to donate books for public schools.
These books are then taken to the donors' preferred primary schools, or better still, Story Moja would suggest a school.
Generally, when someone donates a book package, we give him or her the first option to say which school they want to donate to. And by the way, if they tell us they want to donate to a school in Kiambu or in Bondo or wherever it is they went to school, we've got no problems with that. We will ship the books there. But we give you the first option to choose which school you want to. However, and quite a number of people are telling us, you know what, choose a school for me. There are schools that we've worked with in the past.
The books are all locally written so that the kids can read stories they can relate to and at the same time promote the local authors.
I can't tell you the power of reading pesetas, of reading, just the local Moses series, the things which I can see for myself, I can identify with, that excite me, that comes from a world in which I understand. I think it's so powerful.
We want people to be able to read, like I'm holding Oluoch Madiang's book. I want people to read Oluoch Madiang everywhere, in Lodwar, in Buruburu, in in Kisumu, in Bondo. I don't want it to be an exclusively leafy suburb affair. Yeah, so they'll get their names and their books out into a much larger market.
Through this, they are calling upon the parents to read for their children from an early age, not only to build the bond between them, but also to feed their kids with the right information.
When your child is very young, read with them. As your child grows older, have them read to you as a point of discussion, as a point of building a relationship, as a point of increasing their vocabulary, their knowledge of the world, as a point of opening up their minds to imagination, to creativity.
For a child, those early associations between the pleasure of having your mother or your father talk to you and a book become interconnected. And so even when you grow older, you have positive associations with books. What I would really love to do is to see parents reading to their children, even at a very young age. And making bedtime stories a tradition that we adopt and we encourage.
Do not read for exams, that they can read for self-expression, and I am a firm believer, self-expression, positive, encouraging that can save someone's life.
The government has not been spared either. It has an equally big role to play in this great journey.
So we are at a point where we are trying to put as many children in school as possible without really thinking about the quality of that education. And I think we've reached a point where that is becoming more critical. For a long time, libraries have been considered to be like almost a luxury rather than a necessity, which for me is very strange, because it's very hard to have an education system that does not have on the basis of it that people like to read, that people should read.
The conclusion for my quest today came to an end after the visit to Little Rock Kindergarten in Kibera, where Story Moja presented books to create a library in the school. The joy in the little people's faces could not go unnoticed as they listened to the stories being told to them.
The cat was sleeping. The dog was sleeping. The goat was sleeping too. The hens were sleeping. The dog was sleeping. Even the rat was sleeping too. And then a mango fell from the tree. The mango landed on the cat. The cat woke up. Meow! Who woke me? The cat asked. Was it you, Cocorico? Was it Cocorico? No. Cocorico shook his head. But the cat said, no, it was you, Cocorico. Look, all the other animals are sleeping. The dog is sleeping, the cat is sleeping, all animals are sleeping. But Cocorico said, no, it was not me. It was...
The joy climaxed after they were presented with the books, each stretching their hands so that they may receive a book. And after being lost of words, they managed a thank you.
Thank you. Should they come again? Yes.
This was a clear indication that there is a great need and thirst among the young peoples. It is upon all of us to come together to nurture posterity. And how do we do this? Participate in these initiatives. For more information, you can visit the website www.startalibrary.org. Bearing in mind that the cornerstone for a lifelong reading is laid in the early years of life, we need to know that it is never too late to start reading for pleasure. Therefore, no excuses to stay away from books. Marete Salvin, GBS.